All right, I think we're going to get started. Thank you all for joining. My name is Dave Caulwell. I'm with RIEDEL Communications. I've been with RIEDEL about 8 years, going on 9 years now in the Americas. Started out as a regional sales guy, kind of moved up into a channel manager role, and now I'm a director of sales on the East Coast. So I want to start and just kind of give you a background on RIEDEL Communications if you don't really know the background. It was founded in 1987 by Thomas Riedel. He's still sole proprietor, still sole owner, and is a very interesting guy, which I'll get into just a little bit. RIEDEL Communications has several branches, and one of them is Managed Technologies, kind of a rental event management type side of the company. And in that side, we manage more than 3,000 events per year worldwide. We have 24 locations with more than 1,000 employees and more than 200 R&D engineers across the world. So a little bit about Thomas. He's an entertainer by nature. He can really light up a room when he walks in. He's a really cool guy. I started out as a musician, DJ when he was a kid, about 17, 18, and he realized that people need to see and hear him. So he was renting sound systems and lighting, and he thought, well, I don't want to rent this anymore. I'm gonna purchase it. And so he started getting into owning equipment and finally into communications when he met someone from the F1 circuit and started getting into radios and things like that, and then evolved from there into intercom. He's an entrepreneur. He's also an investor. So he has his hands in a little bit of everything as far as companies. So he's got a club in Wuppertal, Germany, that his brother runs. But in that, he has people tracking, so he knows exactly how many people are in the club and things like that. And that's part of a company that he has his hands in. So he's just really kind of an interesting guy. RIEDEL Cosmos. So we're in media, sports, entertainment, corporate, and government. And product lines consist of video, audio, and comms. And then we also have a services part of the company, which I talked about before. Three main pillars of the company, or divisions of the company. One is the product division, which is who I work for and who you mostly would deal with in the Americas. So that's the video and audio product division. Managed Technology. So these are the folks that would do the large, Olympics, large shows worldwide. Not so much in the U.S., but we do have some products that are lease only that they kind of take advantage of, like the NFL referees. They have the comms on their belts. That's part of our Managed Technology part of the company. And then we have a networks division. So think of like the Switch here in the States, but they handle in Europe. There's some places that are really, really hard to get to as far as connectivity. That's what they handle on that side. So very, very interesting company. It's what's kept me here for 8 years, longer than I've ever been anywhere, just because it's different every day. Just to give you an idea of where kind of Thomas started, and it got larger and larger. In 1987, his first product was the RIEDEL. Basically, it's a way to get two-way radios into intercom. And the idea is you put two base stations, one's sending, one's receiving, so it almost acts like a duplex type situation. 1994 was the first Olympic Games. 1993 was F1, the first F1 he took care of. And then we started into the comms world even deeper. So 2000 was the first decentralized digital matrix intercom system. And then we got into what we're going to talk about today, MeteorNet. It's a fiber-based video network for integrated signal transport. 2012, we were involved in the Red Bull Stratos. I don't know if you remember that, when Felix Baumgartner jumped out of the ship in the stratosphere. We handled all the video and audio wireless communication. And then 2017, that's when Bolero wireless intercom came out. Fantastic product. It was really backed by that managed technology part of the company because they had a lot to say about how it was made, what it needs to do, how robust it needs to be. You know, it needs to be able to be dropped in a puddle and not be done for. So that's where that kind of started. Then we introduced the 1232 panels, which is a lever key panel with a touch screen. 2019 was our Embryonics acquisition. So Embryonics is it's a IP-based, SFP-based transport system. 2021, we got involved in the America's Cup. 2022, another acquisition, Simply Live, which is it's a replay and live production tool. We can talk a little bit more about that downstairs if you'd like. And then 23, we were lucky enough to get the Emmy Award for our Bolero wireless intercom. And just to give you a worldwide map, so 24 locations worldwide, 3,000 events, and 1,000 employees. So really, really robust support from RIEDEL when you're buying the products. So today we're going to talk about the video side of RIEDEL more than anything else. Again, it's the MeteorNet family. So one thing we're going to first talk about is MeteorNet TDM, which is a decentralized SDI-based, scalable, flexible system with no IP element. So this is over dark fiber. It appeals to multi-campus type situations and anybody who wants to stay off a network. So think financial companies, things like that. They want absolute security. And then we'll also talk about MeteorNet IP, which is 2110 IP-based product. So TDM, the idea behind it is when you think about a traditional SDI routing solution, you think about that huge monolithic router, and you think about the capacity planning that goes into that. And you think about the expansion challenges once it's installed. You're thinking about putting a multi-RU frame to expand it. It's not very flexible, and it's very format dependent. So the idea is, what's MeteorNet TDM? It's a real-time signal transport, so very low latency, flexible networking, routing of signals, and it also has processing built in. All right. The idea is it's all in one system, all over one cable. It's a very, very cool product. It's actually what brought me to RIEDEL way back when. It's a modular approach. The idea is to put the boxes where you need the I/O instead of bringing the cable from the device into the router and back out and things like that. And it's also very expandable based on system use and your budget. So it's an all-inclusive network: video, audio, intercom, Ethernet, and serial data all in one system. You can think of it as a router. So traditional router table look at things. You could also think of it as a signal processor. So, delay on every channel, there's embed on any channel, de-embed on every channel, frame syncs on every channel, anything you would ever need. Signal transport, so this is a view of a bunch of MeteorNet boxes connected together with fiber. And it's topology agnostic, so it doesn't care how it's connected. So if you think about how would you set this thing up and how is it different than a router, than a traditional monolithic router, think of it as a decentralized exploded router. So again, you're putting the I/O where you need it instead of bringing everything to the router. It just doesn't care how it's connected. It could be a ring, it could be a daisy chain, it could be just simple point-to-point, 2 boxes, it could stand alone. Star topology, mesh. The idea is you have complete freedom of how you want these connected. And it grows as you grow. So maybe today you just need one box. You need to do some embedding and de-embedding, maybe a small 12 by 12 router. It can sit alone. And maybe tomorrow you need to add on to that. So I need to transport these signals across campus. and it's a point-to-point transport. And maybe, you know, a year after that, we're expanding the campus, and we just want to keep adding boxes. The cool thing about it is you're not having to rebuy equipment along the way. You can just add on to what you have. So why is it called TDM? So it uses time division multiplexing. So think of it, you know, inject an HDSDI signal into a box, BNC connector, right? It slices it into 512 time slots, and then it loads those time slots onto a unified carrier, but not in order. It can take maybe HDSDI, some MADI, SDSDI, you know, all along the carrier, and then in destination, it puts the packets back together. And then it becomes the original signal. So the idea is you plug anything into any one of these boxes, it's available at any other box or multiple boxes. So don't think of it as a point-to-point. It only goes from here to here. Once you plug a camera in, it's available at any other box and any other location. So what's it look like? So the MediaNet family consists of the Horizon, the Micron UHD, the regular Micron, and the compact. Yeah. In the old days, it was compact. Now it's not so much. So the idea is that, you know, you can see these are very video-centric. This gives you the extra flavors of, you know, analog audio and serial data and things like that. So if we're going to take a closer look at the compact. So it has robust fiber connectors, which can be, you know, of any flavor you would want connected on there. SD, HD, 3G SDI video. As we go through this, you'll see how the product progressed. This was one of the first iterations of MediaNet, and so we're looking at a little bit older flavors of video and audio. Serial data, which is very interesting, being able to transport serial data over fiber to all the different locations. Sync is built in, but you can also inject sync from an outside source. Ethernet tunnels, so this is very interesting as well. So anything you inject on one side of an Ethernet tunnel comes out exactly the same on the other side. So it's not exactly routable, but you can get one thing from one place to another. So think about transporting camera control. You could transport Dante. Can't manipulate it, but you can get it from one place to another. Things like that. So it's kind of interesting. Analog audio. So what's really cool about this is, let's say you have a camera feed with embedded audio. So you inject that into any other box, right? And you want to strip off that audio and have it come out analog audio on this box. Totally doable. And then AES-3, so that's really nice for comm distribution, things like that. And then to MADI audio streams as well. Take a look at the Micron. So that was the next step from the compact. So now we can see that now we're 10G on the fiber side. The compact was 4 1/4. 2 MADI streams as well, MADI connections. So my daughter didn't go to school today, it looks like. 3G SDI, so 12 by 12, 12 ins, 12 outs. Sync, again, you can inject sync and send it back out as well. And then we have 1 gig Ethernet tunnel, as well as the configuration port. Now the interesting thing now is you start to see the processing built in. So frame sync on every connection, embedder, de-embedder, test pattern generator, on-screen display, time code insertion. It's all built in native. You're not having to buy licenses and things like that to enable that stuff. And it's when we start to get into software-defined hardware. So the only buy-up as far as software you would see on this unit is if you only need it for to be standalone or point-to-point, you can buy a software level that brings the cost down a little bit. But if you need it to be part of a larger system, then you can just buy up to that software, and it's licensed to do so. And then as we move through higher and higher video resolutions, we realized that we need to up the processing on some of these units, and we went Micron UHD. So in this case, it's 4 by 100 gig QSFP ports. And again, it's all backwards compatible, 4 1/4, 10G, 100G, doesn't matter. So it can all act together in the same system with those other products. In this case, it's 16 by 16, up to 8, 12G. And then in the middle, we have some flexible video ports up to 3G, which they could be ins, they could be outs, all in how you're going to use it. 16 video outputs, up to 8, 12G. Then in this case, we'll look at 4 Ethernet tunnels, and then the fourth one is also the management. And then 2 SFP ports for MADI, and 2 sync ports. And again, the same processing is also on this unit. Because it has more robust backbone, we've also added multi-viewers. So in this case, you can buy up to a software package where you can add a multi-viewer to it. And the idea is that this multi-viewer just doesn't exist on this box. It exists anywhere on the network. So you build your network, your multi-viewer, and you can send it out to any other box and send it to any screen that you want. So 4 local screen configurations per device as well. So 4 of those ports on the unit will become outputs, but you can also send it across the network to something else. Lots of flexibility. So screen settings, format, color, layouts, templates. So it's very, very quick to build. Channels for picture-in-picture, and properties for additional settings for selected elements. The interesting thing too is it has distributed clocks and counters, so multiple clock widgets built in, reference system time or time code. Up to 20 system counters are available in one net. Adjustable parameters. And it's all controllable via Ember Plus, as is all these products. Closed caption support as well. So teletext, OP47, subtitle, CEA 608. 3 different pages and services can be displayed per pip, and can be placed on top of the other pip or any position on the screen. So pretty flexible. And then finally, our brand new product is called Horizon. So in this case, the TDM interface is in the middle, meaning that these middle connections can be connected into all the devices I just talked about. And now it's SFP based as well. So now we can, I don't have a picture of it here, but now we can do the embryonics SFPs, which have a coax connection. Maybe it's HDMI. Maybe it's another network-based or fiber-based connection to go directly to a camera or whatever. And then as well as 2 by 400 gig fiber connections on the left side. So the idea behind this is it's a high-density video processing device that kind of bridges the gap between the TDM world and the IP world. And it's a nice, flexible addition to that MeteorNet system when you're not sure, when you're not sure if you want to go IP or not, or you're making those small steps towards IP. This is a fantastic device to put in the middle. So talk about Horizon just a little bit as a high-density SDI processor. So it includes UHD, SDR, HDR conversion, and color correction. Up-down cross-converting and color correction. It adds a high-density up-down cross conversion, SDR, HDR conversion, and color correction to the TDM. It could also be used as a high-density SDI processor in a control room and a studio connection. So you're just adding that on top of your, in this case, Micron UHD. And add those processes into the system without having to buy all these other devices. It can also be used as a UHD IP gateway, like I talked about. So now you're acting as a gateway into that IP world while still having the SDI connections on the other devices. So here's an example of 2 TV trucks. Maybe you need to connect them, but this truck is 2110, and this one has the MeteorNet system on it, or its baseband. Now those two can bridge together using this Horizon device. The idea is it's scalable and flexible, so you can start small and you can keep adding these devices and adding because they're self-discovering and things like that. You're not having to have an IT person on retainer just to get this thing going. But it's not just about the router. It's about cabling. You know, you think about to and from the router to the outbound gear, back to the outbound gear. You're going into a multi-viewer, you're coming back out of a multi-viewer. The port count keeps going up and up and up. You know, you have dedicated cable, video and audio and comms and networks and things like that. The idea is a more, a smarter implementation of signal transport. So if you add in these, in this case, compact devices in between the outboard gear and the router, then it takes care of the cabling in between. So now you're only working with one fiber link instead of multi cables. And what if you connect those together as well? So now you're creating this network of video and audio and data, right? And not to mention the onboard signal processing, so you're not having to go in and out of frame syncs and generators and embedders and de-embedders and things like that. But you still need to address this elephant in the room, which is this huge monolithic router. So what if you did it, if you build this using a MeteorNet system instead of a centralized router look? So replace the router with MeteorNet devices. Signal processing is all included. So what if we adjust for the internal multi-viewer, right? So we're taking those boxes away, and it's actually lowering the port count, lowering your cost. Frame syncs, so you have to take those out of the equation. And if you move redundancies as well, because now you can just simply fiber link them together instead of having anything in the middle, you're really racking up the savings and the setup time and things like that. It really eases the cable by positioning the I/O where it's required. It's decentralized. So another look at it, so central I/O, and maybe you have several studios, control rooms, things like that, all over these fiber links instead of sending cable installed manually across all these rooms and things like that. So some examples, where does this really fit? That's what I would want to see if I were you. So this is an example of an install in New York City. So there's a control room on one side of Broadway, and then there's some performance spaces on the other side. And then there's dark fiber underneath the street that they lease, right? So in the MCR, obviously there's a switcher, there's camera control, there's a little router, PTZ control as well. And then in the performance spaces, obviously you got the cameras, PTZ cameras and handhelds, CCU control that you need to control, local audio mixing, and comms. And then sometimes they also bring in trucks. They need connectivity for the trucks as well. So in this case, we added some MeteorNet devices, compacts and microns, to connect all the devices up on the MCR side. And then we added basically a mirror on the other side to connect all those devices as well. And then under the street, we just connect it with fiber. And it's literally as if you were sitting there at the performance space, controlling cameras, talking to the operators, coloring the cameras and things like that. Because it is such real-time transport, you're able to accomplish a goal like this. So that was MeteorNet TDM. So if we look at the MNIP side of things, which is MeteorNet MNIP, 2110 processing and gateways. So this is what the industry is offering at the moment, right? Processing gateways in the middle there, connected to top-of-rack switches and things like that. The idea is we replace that middle row with our devices. So the Virtue 48 is basically a Mellanox switch on steroids. It's basically, you know, improved cooling, processing, and things like that, that we load up with the SFPs, which could be SDI, HDMI, fiber, whatever you need. And we also have the Virtue 32, which is a passive device that also houses these devices. So that brings the cost down. You're not having to buy several of these. You can also have passive devices as long as you have an IP system involved. And then our throwdown devices, which you have downstairs, if you'd like to see them, is called the Fusion series. So these also take the SFPs and they're throwdown devices. So think about putting them next to a PTZ camera, which can do, these devices can do the control, can do the video from the camera, and can also do the transport over the IP network for these cameras. So what if we get rid of these top-of-rack switches as well and just you know, connect directly to the core? You can do that as well. So this is a good picture of that line. So BNC connectors on this, HDMI connectors, fiber, and then this is purely processing. So these have processing in them as well, multi-viewing, up-down cross-converting, frame syncs, things like that. And they're all pluggable software-defined SFPs. So yeah, that's another look at the Virtue 48. And another look at the Virtue 32. The Fusions come in two flavors. So Fusion 3 and Fusion 6. It's just the amount of slots that are available. So Fusion 3, these two slots are always network connection, and then you have one available for what you need. So these are fantastic for putting behind LED monitors. If you have a full IP system, but you need to get into those monitors, it's a fantastic solution for that. So it's a system on a chip look at things, reprogrammable at the factory for what you need. Up-down cross, HDR, SDR conversion, JPEG XS encoding and decoding. And they're also gateways, like I said, and clean switching add-on is something that, you know, if you need to make a switch to the router on air, that it does the frame syncing for you as well as the frame sync add-on you can put on it. So, two product lines, completely different as far as transport, but that hybrid approach is what's very interesting. So if you think about building up a traditional MeteorNet network where they're all connected via fiber, right? I mean, add some compacts in, connect them together with fiber. But what if we start replacing units with the Fusion and the Virtue 48? So now you can migrate slowly into the IP world instead of doing it all at once and having to have that support locally and having to spend that kind of money. So now we can inject cameras and all, you know, any IP device directly into our units. And maybe the compact feeds your monitors on that side. But you could also transition that into an IP look as well and just simply go from the switch directly into a Fusion, and that connects directly to your monitor. So really, really flexible. Maybe you add some audio in, you know, with MADI. That can go directly into a Micron, but eventually you're going to feed that right into your switches as well. So what it's illustrating is just a slow transition into the IP world instead of going you know, full bore and spending all that money. So takeaways from today, I want you to just realize that it's a decentralized look at things, that it has native processing in the MeteorNet as well. It's scalable, IP ready, and flexible. That's it for me. Thank you guys, I really appreciate it. Scan that if you want to get in touch.